Hello neighbors, it's Brad here at eTrailer, and today we're taking a look at installing the SumoSprings rear helper springs on a 2022 Mercedes-Benz Sprinter 3500. Adding suspension enhancements to any Sprinter, whether it be an RV or a cargo Sprinter, is going to be a huge upgrade. I've driven a Sprinter plenty of times out on the road, and it feels very top heavy, whether you're turning or just getting side gusts. Either way, there's a lot of sway, and if you can minimize that, it's just going to make for a better driving experience. You're going to get better feel in the steering wheel, better braking, and just overall a better ride for you and either the people riding with you or the components of your vehicle inside of there. Also, adding some suspension enhancement is going to prolong the lifespan of the suspension that's on there from the factory, because it's not allowing it to sag all the way down and kind of at a range where that suspension can't do the work. And that's where these Sumos come into play. The main reason that happens is because these are quite a bit taller than the factory jounce bumpers, and they are designed to fit in the factory jounce stops. So that means our suspension is going to be at rest as we have our vehicle just unloaded, normal. But as you add weight or as you hit bumps, it's going to be ready to absorb that, rather than an airspace being here where that jounce bumper is really not making contact unless it's fully loaded down. That puts a lot of strain on the suspension. So this is going to supplement what you already have and absorb it all, because this is microcellular design, and that's what it's made of. It holds up to not only any road grime or anything that you might throw at it, but it compresses vertically. So as you compress this, it's going to fight back progressively. So the more pressure you put, the more it's going to, retract that suspension back, bring it to a state that's good. And that means there's no maintenance involved. Once it's in, it's just going to do its work. You're going to feel it immediately going over a bump. And what's nice too is it's going to absorb all that shock, but since it's already engaged on both sides, it's also going to help with sway. So we've added a rear sway bar to our Sprinter today, but this in conjunction with it is really going to transform the driving experience. Now, putting our factory one next to the SumoSpring, you clearly can see a difference as far as height goes, and that's really where you get a lot of the cushioning of driving. Is these bump stops are there for when the suspension to go all the way down. It's going to stop it from bottoming those shocks out, where this one engages quite a bit quickly because it's going to hit that contact pad fast. Now, the good thing about that is this is progressive, so it's going to soak up those small bumps, but as you put more and more weight, it's going to progressively go against that and just fight against sway and all those harsh road bumps. It's really going to absorb a lot of that. A lot of times people ask me what I would do as far as suspension, and they already have airbags in their mind, because airbags is kind of the go-to for a lot of people that haven't seen what else is out there. Airbags are nice, but there's going to be air that you're going to need to add or drop as necessary, and there's going to be some maintenance required, because as that gets cold and hot out in the temperatures, sometimes you can get some leaks, and then you're going to have to track those down. Where these, you just simply pop them in place and they're ready to go. And once you have them in, they're going to be there for the lifespan of the vehicle, and they're never really going to break down, so you get that nice ride for the lifespan of the vehicle. Now, these are rated at 1,400 pounds of capacity, and that's not going to give you more capacity on your vehicle, but they can support that amount of weight at 50%. Now, these are a little bit softer than some of the other ones out there, so you're not going to get any jarring bumps by any means. It does a really good job of absorbing it and really kind of controlling that sway. But if you wanted a little bit more support, if you really have this thing loaded up, or if yours is a cargo Sprinter that may have tools and the things in the back, you can look at a heavier duty capacity, and that's really going to stop that sagging from occurring on your Sprinter. I think the great part about these is the fact that the installation is super easy. So all you have to do is unspring the suspension by raising the rear of the vehicle up. You pop out your old ones, and then you can pop these new ones in. So in about 15 minutes or so, you can have them installed, and immediately the first time you take your vehicle out, you're going to love it. So as far as that installation goes, I'll show you how to get that installed. So let's take a look. Now, to get our SumoSprings installed, you are going to need the rear suspension to be unsprung, and the ways that you can do that, you can probably use your rear jacks to raise up the rear. You can use a floor jack that's rated to raise up off the hitch. We're obviously on lifts here, so I'm using a pole jack, but we need to open that window up, not to get the old ones out, but the new ones are quite a bit taller, and we're going to need that space to be able to pop them in. And we'll need to remove our factory ones, and they just slide into these little tab brackets. And so to get this out, you can kind of pry on this on the side here, and that's going to help. So using a screwdriver here, I've had luck before. Just kind of pry this back, and once you get one of the tabs to pop out, the whole thing should come out fairly easily. If you need to help it along, a little bit of soapy water goes a long way. You can also use a little bit of silicone. Now you'll see that we have notches here where it's obviously going to go in those same brackets like the other one, but one's longer than the other. So when we put this in place, I'm going to put the longer one in towards the front of the vehicle, and then we're going to need to wedge this in. Now I'll admit these do get tricky trying to pry them in. They're very flexible, so you really, it's going to be really tough to ever damage these. But something to help it along is a little bit of silicone here is going to help lubricate that. And as far as raising up the vehicle, obviously make sure you can kind of get this in place. So it's pretty tight here, but I think I can get my rear one or that front one slid in. And we'll just push that in as far as possible. Now this is where it can get tricky. So I'm going to grab a flathead screwdriver and we're going to try to pry this in. So with a flathead screwdriver, just be careful here, but just kind of press on, and you should try to get one of the corners popped up. And if you need to, sometimes it helps to have two flat blades, so either a pry bar or another flathead. And then once you get that popped in place, it should be nice and centered up here on our joust strike plate. We'll go ahead and we'll pop out the other side, get our other one in place, and we'll be good to go. Now with both of them popped into place, we'll go ahead, we'll get our lifting device taken down, and then we can take our vehicle for a test drive and notice the difference. And that was a look and installation of the SumoSprings rear helper springs on a 2022 Mercedes-Benz Sprinter 3500.